Ever feel like keeping up with financial news, the stuff that could actually, impact your wallet, is like a second job?
Oh, absolutely. It changes so fast.
Well, think of us as your shortcut today. We've dug through a bunch of news reports and articles, all from May 2025, to pull out the key bits on benefits and potential aid.
Exactly. And we're zeroing in on three main things people are asking about.
Yeah.
What's happening with Social Security payments? Is there really a fourth stimulus check coming? And what's the latest on minimum wage?
Right. The goal here is just to give you some clarity, cut through the noise, and help you understand what this news might mean for your own financial situation.
Let's do it.
Okay, first up, Social Security. Sounds like May 2025 has a slightly weird payment schedule. Some people might get 3 payments. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher if you're not expecting it. It really just boils down to a quirk in the calendar this year.
A calendar quirk. Okay.
So supplemental security income, SSI, that usually comes on the first of the month,
Mm-hmm.
June 1st, 2025. It lands on a Sunday.
Ah, okay. So they can't pay it on the actual first.
Precisely. So the rule is they issue the payment on the prior business day. That means the June SSI payment is scheduled to go out on Friday, May 30th.
I see. So if you get both SSI and regular Social Security.
Then you could see, potentially, 3 deposits in May. You'd get your normal May SSI payment around May 1st, then your regular Social Security retirement or disability payment based on your birthday later in the month.
Okay.
And then that June SSI payment shows up early on May 30th.
Right. So crucial point here. This isn't extra money, is it? It's just the June payment arriving a bit sooner.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
It's really important to remember that it's not a bonus, just an early payment because of the weekend. Don't spend it thinking it's extra cash for May.
Good clarification. And the regular Social Security payments, the retirement and disability ones, they're still following the usual schedule based on birthdays.
Yes, absolutely. No changes there for May 2025. So if you started getting benefits way back, before May 1997, your payment probably already arrived on May 2nd. If your birthday falls between the 1st and the 10th of the month, look for your payment on May 14th.
Got it.
Birthdays between the 11th and 20th, that's May 21st. And if you were born between the 21st and the 31st, your payment date is May 28th.
Okay, clear schedule. And just to recap the SSI dates again for May.
Sure. Regular May SSI around May 1st, and the early June SSI payment on May 30th.
Perfect. Now, let's talk about COLAs, the cost of living adjustments. These are meant to help benefits keep up with inflation, right? What are we seeing for 2025?
That's the idea, yeah. Try and maintain purchasing power. For 2025, people receiving Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, they're looking at a 2.5% COLA increase.
Okay, 2.5%. And SSDI payments, they generally follow the same birthday schedule.
Mostly, yes, based on eligibility and birthday, just like retirement benefits. Though there's that group, again, people who started benefits before May 1997, they usually get paid on the 3rd of the month or, the Friday before if the 3rd's the weekend or holiday.
Right. And just quickly, who qualifies for SSDI? It's about having a disability that prevents work, but there are work history rules too, aren't there?
Yes, definitely. You need to be a U.S. resident or citizen with a valid Social Security number. And, crucially, you need enough work credits. Generally, that means earning at least 40 credits, with about 20 of those earned in the 10 years right before your disability started.
So you had to have paid into the system recently.
Essentially, yes. It shows you have a recent work history. There are some exceptions, like for younger workers or those with visual impairments. And retired workers claiming after 62 have slightly different considerations.
Okay, so SSDI gets a 2.5% CLA. What about regular Social Security retirement benefits for 2025? Same increase.
Yes, the reporting indicates the KOA for general Social Security retirement benefits in 2025 is also around that 2.5% mark. It's, well, a modest adjustment aimed at helping with rising costs.
Modest, yeah.
Yeah.
But looking ahead, there's already talk about the 2026 CLA possibly being lower, like 2.2%.
That's what some initial projections or reports are suggesting, yes.
Yeah.
A potential 2.2% for 2026. And the concern there, is context.
Context how?
Well, if the cost of living, things like housing, food, healthcare, if that keeps climbing significantly, a smaller CLA, like 2.2%, might not actually keep pace.
Meaning people's benefits wouldn't stretch as far, their actual buying power could decrease?
Potentially, yes. That's the worry. It's definitely something folks relying on Social Security will want to keep an eye on. The Social Security Administration does recommend signing up for their e-news alerts to get updates directly.
Good tip. Now, sticking with Social Security, there have been reports about staff cuts at the Social Security Administration, SSA. This is under the new Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE.
That's right. DOGE was set up with the goal of streamlining government finding savings, but reports indicate staff reductions have happened at the SSA as part of this.
And what's the potential impact for people trying to get benefits or deal with the SSA?
Well, the concern being raised, even by some former SSA officials apparently, is that fewer staff could lead to longer waits, longer processing times for applications, maybe delays in getting help or answers.
That sounds problematic, especially for people needing disability benefits or facing urgent situations.
It could be, yes. Some reports mention West Virginia might be particularly affected just because a higher percentage of the population relies on Social Security, and access to services could be tougher with fewer staff. There were even some anecdotal reports earlier in May about longer waits for disability claims in certain areas already.
So efficiency efforts might have unintended consequences for service. And this ties into the bigger ongoing discussion about Social Security's long-term financial health, doesn't it?
It really does. The solvency question, how to ensure the system remains financially sound for future generations, it keeps coming up. There are always different ideas being floated, adjusting retirement ages, changing benefit calculations, even bigger shifts like privatization or a flat rate benefit system.
Lots of debate there. Okay, let's switch gears. The topic that always gets a lot of clicks and questions. Stimulus checks. Any real news about a fourth stimulus payment in 2025?
Ah, yes. The $2,000 fourth stimulus check rumor. It's definitely been circulating, targeted towards SSI, SSDI, and low-income folks, often linked to the ongoing economic situation.
Right, I've seen those headlines. But what's the reality?
The reality, as of early May 2025, is that there is no official confirmation whatsoever. No government approval, no legislation passed. It's purely speculation at this point.
Okay, sounderline that. No official fourth stimulus check has been approved. Important for people to know.
Absolutely crucial. While the idea might be out there, it hasn't translated into any actual government action.
If, hypothetically, something like that were proposed and approved, who would the target group likely be, based on the rumors?
The focus seems to be on those receiving SSDI, SSI, and possibly other low-income federal benefits. The rationale would likely be providing extra support to those considered most vulnerable to rising costs.
And how would it likely be paid out, again, hypothetically, similar to before?
You'd expect similar methods, yeah.
Eh.
Direct deposit for anyone with bank info on file with the SSA or IRS. For others, probably paper checks or maybe those prepaid debit cards mailed out.
Okay. But again, purely speculative, and this brings up the scam warning, right?
Oh, definitely. This is prime territory for scammers. If anyone contacts you asking for personal information, bank details, social security number, whatever claiming it's needed for a new stimulus check, just hang up or delete the message. The government will not call, text, or email you asking for that information out of the blue.
Good warning. Be incredibly skeptical.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't there also some mention earlier this year from President Trump about a different kind of payment, a DOGE dividend?
Yes, back in February 2025, President Trump mentioned a possibility. He floated the idea of maybe a $5,000 stimulus check, framing it as a DOGE dividend.
A dividend from savings found by the Department of Government Efficiency.
That was the concept, yes. Using supposed savings identified by DOGE, headed by Elon Musk, and returning that money to taxpayers.
Okay, and what's happened with that idea?
Basically, nothing concrete, no specific plans, no follow-up details, no real sense if it's even a serious proposal being considered. It remains a very, very vague suggestion at this stage.
So lots of talk, not much action on the stimulus front. And just to close the loop on past payments, the deadline to claim the third stimulus check, the one from 2021, that's passed now, correct?
That's absolutely correct. The deadline to file an amended 2021 tax return to claim that recovery rebate credit was April 15, 2025.
So if you didn't claim it by
Then unfortunately that money stays with the U.S. Treasury. The window is closed.
Okay. Let's move on to minimum wage, another key piece of the financial puzzle for millions. We know the federal minimum is still $7.25 an hour, hasn't changed in ages. But states are a different story, right?
A very different story. You've got the federal baseline, $7.25, which some states still follow. But then you have many, many states and even cities that have set their own, often much higher, minimum wages.
Like where? What are some examples for 2025 from the reports?
Well, at the top end, you've got places like the District of Columbia and Washington State, both reportedly at $15.20 an hour in 2025.
Wow, big difference from $7.25.
Huge. Then you look around, California's at $15, Arizona $12.80, Alaska $10.34, Florida hit $10, New Jersey's up to $13.
And some states are still at the federal level.
Yes, the reports mentioned Alabama and Texas, for example, still adhering to the $7.25 federal minimum. It really highlights how your paycheck can vary drastically just based on where you live and work.
Absolutely. And who do these minimum wage laws generally apply to? Is it every single worker?
Generally, the federal law, the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, sets the main guidelines. It usually covers employees involved in interstate commerce, government workers at all levels, and people working in places like schools, hospitals, colleges.
But there are exceptions.
Oh, yes, quite a few special rules. Tipped employees are a big one. Their cash wage plus tips has to meet the minimum wage, but the direct cash wage can be lower.
Right, the tip credit.
Exactly. Then there's often a training wage for younger workers, usually under 20, for their first 90 days. Agricultural and seasonal workers can have different rules too, often set by the state.
Any other exceptions? Small businesses, maybe?
Sometimes, yes. Depending on the state or local rules, and often based on things like annual revenue or number of employees, some small businesses might be allowed to pay slightly less than the standard minimum wage. And it's worth noting, in quite a few states now, the minimum wage isn't static. It's tied to the Consumer Price Index, the CPI.
Meaning it adjusts automatically for inflation.
Yes, usually annually, based on cost of living changes. So it's a really complex patchwork across the country.
Definitely sounds like it. Okay, before we wrap up, a couple of other financial news items popped up in the May reports. One was about IRS tax deadlines being extended for some people.
That's right. This is specifically for taxpayers in areas hit hard by recent natural disasters. We're talking specific counties in Tennessee, Kentucky, and parts of Arkansas. The IRS extended various tax filing and payment deadlines that would normally fall between April 2nd and November 3rd, 2025.
Pushing them back to when?
The new deadline for those affected taxpayers is November 3, 2025.
And what kind of taxes does that cover? Is it just income tax?
No, it's pretty broad. Covers individual income tax returns, corporate and partnership returns, payroll taxes, estimated tax payments, even contributions to retirement accounts for the 2024 tax year. It gives people and businesses much-needed breathing room.
That's good relief. But it's just a delay, not forgiveness, right? Taxes are still owed.
Crucial point, yes. It's a postponement of the deadline. Any tax that was originally due still needs to be paid eventually, and interest on unpaid amounts generally still starts accruing from the original due date, even with the extension.
Okay, good to know. And the final item was about the Trump administration, DOGE again, and access to Social Security data. What's the story there?
Yeah, this involves a request made by the Trump administration to the Supreme Court. They want the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, to have access to Social Security Administration's systems and data.
And the reason given.
The stated goal is to help DOGE identify and combat waste, fraud, and abuse within the Social Security programs more effectively.
But there are concerns.
Yes, significant concerns have been raised about privacy. We're talking about access to incredibly sensitive personal information for millions of Americans. There are also worries, linking back to the staff cuts we discussed, about whether this focus on data access combined with potentially fewer resources could impact the agency's ability to actually deliver services efficiently.
So it's a balancing act, potential efficiency gains versus privacy and service delivery impacts. A judge had previously limited DOGE's access.
Correct. A federal judge in Maryland had put restrictions in place, citing federal privacy laws. The administration is now asking the Supreme Court to review and potentially overturn that decision.
Okay, definitely a situation to watch. So we've really covered a lot today. That unusual Social Security payment schedule in May, the still uncertain status of any fourth stimulus check.
Right, and the very mixed landscape of minimum wage across the U.S., plus those specific updates on tax extensions and the ongoing debate around government access to Social Security data.
The big takeaway, as always, seems to be rely on official sources. Go directly to the SSA website, the IRS website, for accurate information.
Absolutely. Be super skeptical of anything you see on social media or get in unsolicited emails or calls, especially about stimulus payments. Those are so often scams trying to get your information.
So maybe take a moment to think about how these things might affect you personally. Are you getting SSI? Does that May 30th payment apply? What is the minimum wage where you live? Checking official sources is key.
And maybe just reflecting on that broader tension we touched on, the balance between wanting government programs to be efficient and prevent fraud versus ensuring that essential financial support systems are accessible, private, and actually work well for the people who depend on them. It's a tricky balance.
Definitely something to think about as these policies and debates continue to unfold. Thanks for breaking it all down.
Glad to do it.